She didn't blink. That is what everyone remembers. Her eyes were blue, wide, and unblinking. She stared at you until you felt uncomfortable. Until you believed her. She wore a black turtleneck every day, just like her idol, Steve Jobs. She lowered her voice to a deep baritone, to sound more powerful. She drank green juice. She slept 4 hours a night. She was the perfect image of a Silicon Valley genius. The first female billionaire who made it on her own. She promised to save the world. 1 drop of blood, she said. That is all we need to detect cancer, diabetes, everything. No more big needles. No more vials. Just a pinprick on the finger. It was a beautiful lie. Because the machine didn't work. It never worked. While she was on the cover of magazines, patients were getting false results. People were told they had cancer when they didn't. People were told they were healthy when they were dying. This is not just a story about money. This is a story about playing God with human lives. This is the story of how Elizabeth Holmes scammed the most powerful men in the world without blinking. Welcome to the Graphic Ledger. 2003. Stanford University. A 19-year-old chemical engineering student named Elizabeth Holmes drops out. She has an idea. A patch that can test your blood and deliver medicine instantly. Her professor tells her it is scientifically impossible. Elizabeth doesn't listen. She thinks that if you want something bad enough, the laws of physics will bend for you. She starts a company called Real-Time Cures. Later, she changes it to Theranos. A mix of therapy and diagnosis. She needs money. But she doesn't go to medical experts. They would ask too many questions. She goes to family connections. She goes to old, powerful men. She charms them. She looks them in the eye with that intense stare and sells them the vision. Healthcare is a human right, she says. She raises $6 million. Then $40 million. The valuation skyrockets. But there is a problem. The technology doesn't exist. The engineers inside Theranos are panicking. You cannot run 200 tests on a single drop of blood. The sample is too small. It evaporates. The chemical reactions interfere with each other. Physics is fighting back. Elizabeth's solution? Secrecy and fear. To maintain the illusion, Elizabeth needed an enforcer. Enter Ramesh Sunny Balwani. He was her secret boyfriend, 20 years her senior. He became the president and COO. While Elizabeth played the visionary Steve Jobs character, Sunny played the dictator. He prowled the hallways. He monitored the security cameras. He tracked the keycard swipes of every employee. He fired people on the spot for lack of devotion. Together, they created a paranoid delusion. They didn't just fool investors. They destroyed families. Take the tragic case of Tyler Shultz. Tyler was a young employee at Theranos. He was also the grandson of George Shultz, the former U.S. Secretary of State who sat on the Theranos board. Tyler worked in the lab. He saw the fake tests. He saw the quality control data being deleted. He went to his grandfather. He said, "The machine is a lie. You are being scammed." But George Shultz was so under Elizabeth's spell, he didn't believe his own blood. He told Tyler to be quiet. Elizabeth didn't hesitate. She unleashed her lawyers on Tyler. They threatened to bankrupt the Shultz family. They followed Tyler with private investigators. Imagine that level of manipulation. Turning a grandfather against his grandson to protect a plastic box that didn't work. In the center of the lab sits that box. They call it the Edison. It looks like a black computer tower. It is supposed to be the future of medicine. In reality, it is a shell of glued together parts that breaks constantly. When visitors come, the engineers fake the demos. They run pre-recorded programs. It is a magic trick. But the magic trick works. By 2014, Theranos is worth $9 billion. Elizabeth Holmes is a superstar. She gathers a board of directors that looks like a war cabinet. Henry Kissinger, George Shultz, General James Mattis. Why did these experienced men fall for a 19-year-old dropout? Because she told them a story they wanted to hear. And because they didn't understand the science. The deception reaches its peak with Walgreens. Elizabeth convinces the pharmacy giant to put Theranos wellness centers in their stores. Real patients start coming in. They get their fingers pricked. But the Edison machine can't handle the tests. So, what does Elizabeth do? She cheats. She buys commercial analyzers from Siemens. Big, standard machines that every hospital uses. She hacks them to run on small samples. She hides the Siemens machines in a secret room. When a patient gives blood, the sample isn't tested on the Edison. It is rushed to the back room and tested on the competitors' machines. And even then, because they diluted the blood, the results were wrong. A pregnant woman is told she has miscarried. She hasn't. A patient is told his blood clotting is normal. It isn't. He could have had a stroke. The lie had turned dangerous. But the house of cards was about to fall. And it started with a single loose thread. A pathologist named Adam Rosendorf quits. He is disgusted by the ethics. He talks to a reporter, John Carreyrou from the Wall Street Journal. Carreyrou is a bulldog. He starts digging. He calls former employees. He talks to doctors. He realizes the numbers don't add up. Elizabeth finds out. She goes to war. She hires the most aggressive lawyer in America, David Boies. They threaten the whistleblowers. They try to kill the story. Elizabeth goes to Rupert Murdoch, the owner of the Wall Street Journal, who had invested $100 million in Theranos. She asks him to stop the article. To his credit, Murdoch refuses. October 15, 2015. The article is published. Hot startup Theranos has struggled with its blood test technology. The headline is boring. The content is nuclear. It exposes everything. The fake tests. The Siemens machines. The inaccurate results. The world gasps. Elizabeth goes on television. She doesn't apologize. She doubles down. This is what happens when you work to change things, she says. First they think you're crazy, then they fight you, then you change the world. It was in these interviews that the crack in her persona appeared. The voice. Employees had noticed it for years. Sometimes, when Elizabeth was drunk or excited, her deep baritone voice would slip. It would become high and squeaky. The deep voice was just another costume. Another black turtleneck. A way to dominate men in a boardroom. She wasn't just building a company. She was playing a character. And the character was breaking. But the regulators are watching. The FDA raids the labs. They find the machines are a hazard. They ban Elizabeth from the blood testing business. Walgreens sues. Investors sue. The $9 billion valuation evaporates. Theranos dissolves. Then comes the trial. Elizabeth changes again. The black turtleneck is gone. The messy hair is gone. She appears as a young mother, holding a baby's hand. She wears soft colors. Her defense is simple. I failed, but I didn't lie. I believed in the technology. She blames her ex-boyfriend, Sonny Balwani. She claims he manipulated her. But the text messages tell a different story. They show a CEO who was obsessed with image, who monitored everything, and who knew exactly what the machines could and could not do. The jury sees through the act. Guilty. 4 counts of fraud. The judge sentences her to 11 years in prison. The Steve Jobs of biotech is now inmate number 24965. She enters a federal prison camp in Texas. No more green juice. No more private jets. Just a concrete cell and the reality she tried to outrun. So, what is the lesson written in the graphic ledger today? Fake it, till you make it works for software. If your app crashes, you reboot. But it doesn't work for medicine. If your blood test crashes, people die. Elizabeth Holmes proved that charisma is a dangerous drug. We want to believe in the genius who saves the world. We want the fairy tale. And fraudsters know that. She looked us all in the eye, and she didn't blink. But in the end, reality always stares back. This is the graphic ledger. See you in the next entry.